Hey everybody, I'm Mickey Gousset. It is important for your team to track the work to be done on your project. Let's introduce you to one way of doing that with GitHub project boards. In this video, I wanted to look at GitHub project boards, which are a feature of GitHub that you can use in conjunction with issues and pull requests to track the work that needs to be done on your project. You can use project boards to organize issues and pull requests, as well as manage your workflow across a repository or organization. You can create project boards for specific feature work, comprehensive roadmaps, or even release checklists, as well as create customized workflows that follow your process. Project boards are made up of columns. If you are used to Kanban, it will be very familiar, that contain three things: issues, pull requests, or notes. Notes can be used to gather any information, such as task reminders. If a note isn't sufficient for what you need to do, you can always turn a note into an issue. The items on a board are represented by cards. A column represents a status. You can drag and drop cards to reorder them in a column or move them to a different column. You can also make some lightweight edits to issues and pull requests by editing the card on the board. There are three different types of project boards available. First up, repository boards. A repository board is scoped to a single repository and the issues and pull requests within that repository. Here is my repository, aptly named My Cool Repository. In the repository, I can have multiple repository project boards. Each board is distinct from the other, with its own columns, automations, etc. My repository also contains my issues and my pull requests, and obviously some code as well. I can add issues to any repository board. I can also add pull requests to any board. I can even add the same issue or pull request to multiple boards if I want to. I can also create notes, which can be used for a variety of different things. Now, I may have other repositories that I can access. And those repositories may have issues and pull requests that I want to include on my Cool Repository project boards. While I can't add them directly, because the boards in this instance are scoped to just the My Cool Repository repo, I can create a note and then add a link to the note that references the issue or pull request in the other repository. Next up is the user-owned project board. This is a project board that I create under my user profile, which I can then link to any personal repos I have access to, allowing me to pull in issues and pull requests from those repos. Under my profile, I can create multiple user-owned project boards. I may also have access to multiple repositories. I can link a repository to one of my project boards. I can also link the same repository to multiple boards, and I can link multiple repositories to one board. In fact, I can link up to 25 repositories to a single board. Once the repositories are linked to a board, I can add issues or pull requests from the linked repositories to the appropriate board. Finally, I have the organization-wide project board. These boards can contain issues and pull requests from any repository that belongs to an organization. Under my organization, I can create multiple project boards. The organization may have repositories. I can link a repository to one of the project boards. I can also link the same repository to multiple boards, and I can link multiple repositories to one board. As with the user-owned boards, I can link up to 25 repositories to a single board. Once the repositories are linked to a board, I can add issues or pull requests from the linked repositories to the appropriate board. You can use templates to quickly set up a new project board. When you use a template to create a project board, your new board will automatically include columns as well as cards with tips for using project boards. There are 4 available templates: Basic Kanban, Automated Kanban, Automated Kanban with Review, Bug Triage. Let's dive into each a little more. With Basic Kanban, you start off with 3 columns: To Do, In Progress, and Done. There is no automation by default. You create your cards using issues, pull requests, or notes, and manually move them from column to column, following your process. With Automated Kanban, the board looks exactly the same, with the same 3 columns: To Do, In Progress, and Done. However, the board has some automation rules in place. When certain events happen, such as adding a new issue to the board or closing an issue, automation kicks in, which will automatically move the card to the appropriate column based off your process. With Automated Kanban with Review, we have added 2 extra columns: Review in Progress and Reviewer Approved. These columns provide additional automation capabilities around pull requests. As with the Automated Kanban board, cards automatically move between columns based off the established process. The final template is the Bug Triage template. You can use this board to help triage and prioritize your bugs. Boards are customizable, and any board you create, even one created from a template, can then be customized to your process. You can also create a blank project board and build it out how you want it to work. Finally, you can copy a project board to reuse its customizations for similar projects. Let's look at 2 different demos. In the first demo, I am going to create a new repository to hold some code, issues, and pull requests. I'm going to create a user-owned project board, link it to the repo I just created, and then add 3 columns to the board to represent the process I am going to follow. In the second demo, I'm going to create another repo. I don't have to. I could use the repo from Demo 1, but I wanted to keep them separate. Then I'm going to create a repository board. Remember, that means it is scoped to just this repository for each of the different board templates. I'll dive into each template and show you the columns and automation you get out of the box. Okay, for our first demo, we're going to create a new repo, then create a user-owned project board that links to that repo. So what I'll do is come up here in GitHub, and I can click the plus sign, and I can say create a new repository. So I'll give that repository a name. I will call it my user-owned board repo. And I'll give it a description, which would be, I am a repo used for demoing a user-owned project board. Now we'll keep it public, which is fine. And we're going to initialize the repo. And I'm going to go ahead and give it a Visual Studio Git Ignore for right now. And we'll set the license to be MIT. And we're going to click Create Repository. So this is just creating a repository like you would create any kind of repository in GitHub. Next, I want to create my actual user board. So I come over here and select my profile, and you can see I have access to repositories, projects, stars. So we're going to select your projects. And as you can see, I don't have any projects yet. So we're going to create a new project, and we will call this User-Owned Board 1. We won't give it a description for right now. And we will not use a template at this point, because we're going to use a template when we create our repository scoped project boards. And I'll go ahead and set the visibility to public, because there's nothing in here that I don't mind it being public. And then finally, I need to set the repositories this needs to be linked to. Right now, you can see I'm currently linked to no repositories. And I can link to up to 25 if I want to. So I'll come in here and I will search for the repository I just created, my user-owned repository. And I can select it. And now you can see that the repository is linked to my project board. And then I will click Create Project. So I've now created a new project board, a blank one, and linked it to my repository. And I can see that if I go over to Menu, I can see the repositories that this board is linked to. Now I want to do a little bit of customization to this board. So I'm going to click Add Column. And I'm going to add my first column, which I'm going to call Backlog. Now, for right now, I'm not going to do any kind of automation, but you'll notice that I can select some preset automation to help me with project tracking and better context sharing and in general just automation. And I have options of, say I wanted to do the to-do preset. Then you can see that I could turn on automation to do things such as when an issue is added to this board, it automatically goes into the backlog column. But for right now, we don't want any automation, so I'm going to set that back to none, and I'm going to say Create Column. I'm going to add a second column, and we're going to call this second column Doing. And I'll click Create Column. And then finally, I'm going to add a third column, and we'll call this Finished. And for right now, this is my process. I have a backlog column, I have what I'm working on, which is the doing column, and then I have the finished column, which is when I am done. If I want more screen real estate to work with my columns, I can click full screen. And full screen just kind of maximizes it to give you a little more room. If you want to exit full screen, you can exit full screen. So what I've done in this demo is I created a new repository. Then I created a user-owned project board. You can see this now if I go to Your Projects under My User Profile. I have one project board, and there's the board we created. And then in that board, I created 3 columns to help start driving my process. And at this point, we have not turned on any automation. Now that we've seen how to create a user-owned project board, let's move on to creating some repository scoped boards using some of the different templates. Let's move on to the second demo. To get started with this demo, we're going to once again create a new repository. Now we don't have to do that. We could use the repository we created in the previous demo, but I'm creating a second repository just to have a little bit of separation of concerns, so to speak. So I'm going to say new repository, and we'll just call this repository My Acme Repository. And we'll give it a description, and we'll call it I am a repo used for demoing a repository project board. And again, we'll keep it public because we don't mind. We'll initialize it with a README. We'll go ahead and put a Visual Studio git ignore, and we'll set the license to be MIT and create repository. This will create our repository. Here we are. Now we want to create our boards that are repository boards. And to do that, instead of coming up here and going under my profile and saying your projects, I'm going to stay in the repository and select projects. You can see right now I don't have any project boards, so I'm going to say create a project. And I need to give this project board a name, and we will call this Basic Kanban. We'll give it a description. I am a basic Kanban board. Under project template, we're going to select Basic Kanban, which, as you can see, it creates a basic Kanban style board with columns for to do, in progress, and done. I'm going to select that and click Create Project. You'll notice that it automatically created the 3 columns for us, and it created some default note cards for us with some checklists to help us get started and some explanations on what we can do to get started with this board and how to use this board. This board is not much different from the one that I created earlier, other than it's a project or a repository scoped board versus a user owned board. It has 3 columns. The columns are named slightly different, still has 3 columns. And you'll notice that if I go into each column and I select Manage Automation, there is currently no automation turned on for any of these columns. Now this column has the preset to do automations available to it, but none of them are checked right now. And if I look at the other columns, this one has the in progress preset, in progress automations that are available to it, but none of them are checked, which means right now there is no automation happening for this particular project board. So let's go back to projects. And remember, this is my projects that are scoped to the repository. Click New Project. And let's create another project board. We'll call this one the Automated Kanban project board. So we'll give it a description. I am an automated Kanban board. And the project template we'll select this time is the automated Kanban project template. This is a Kanban style board with built-in triggers to automatically move issues and pull requests across to do, in progress, and done columns. Let's click Create Project. This looks very similar to the basic Kanban board. Same columns, same cards. However, look at the bottom of each column. You can see that each column has some automation turned on for it. You can see that this is being automated as the to-do presets. This one is being automated as the in-progress presets. This one's being automated as the done presets. And I can click Manage, or I can click the ellipse and say Manage Automation. Both take me to the same place. So let's look at the to-do column. And I can see that the to-do column, they've checked the box next to Newly Added. Issues will automatically move here when added to this project. So when we add a new issue to this project, it will automatically show up in the to-do column, which kind of makes sense. You'll notice that we could also do something with reopened or with newly added or reopened pull requests. However, look at what it says. The in progress column is already using this rule. So we don't want reopened issues to come here because we've already specified in the in progress column for the reopened issues to show up there. Same with the pull requests. If we go look at the automation on the in progress column, we can see the different options that are checked there. So if an issue is reopened, it shows up here. Or if a new pull request is added to the project, it shows up here. Or if a pull request is reopened, it shows up here. And you'll notice there's some other things we could do around pull requests as well. We have the approved by reviewer, which means that it would automatically show up here or move here when the minimum number of required approving reviews happens. We also have pending approval by reviewer, which means the card would move into that column when a reviewer request changes or it no longer meets the minimum number of required approving reviews. So it's a way of kind of being able to keep track of the state that the pull requests are in. And finally, for the done, we can see that if an issue is closed, it shows up here, and if a pull request is merged or closed with unmerged commits, it would be moved to this column as well. So it looks like when you use one of these preset automation templates and then select certain items from that template to be part of that column, that's the automation that gets applied to that column. I don't think these templates are modifiable. However, I do think that with GitHub Actions, we can probably add even more automation into our process. So let's go back to our repository projects and let's create a new one. And we'll call this repository project Automated Kanban with Reviews. And I'll give it a description. I am an automated Kanban board with reviews. And we'll select the project template, obviously. Automated Kanban board with reviews, which is everything in the automated Kanban template with additional triggers for handling pull request reviews. If we select that and click Create Project, then what you'll notice is we have two extra columns. We have Review in Progress and Reviewer Approved. And those columns have automation on them. And if I click Manage, then you can see for Review in Progress, this is where the pending approval by reviewer automation would take place. And then for Reviewer Approved, this is where the approved by reviewer automation would happen. All right, we got one board left to create. So let's come back under our project, under our repo, and click New Project, and we'll call this the Bug Triage Board. And we'll give it a description. I am a Bug Triage Board. And the project template is, of course, the Bug Triage, which is used to triage and prioritize bugs with columns for to do, high priority, low priority, and closed. So let's select that and click Create Project. You'll see that it creates 4 columns for us. Needs triage, high priority, low priority, and closed. There is some automation on this first column, and if we click Manage, then we can see that if an issue is added to this project board, it will show up here, and if an issue is reopened, it will move here as well. So we can use this board to track our bug issues, determine which ones need triage, which ones need high priority, low priority, and which ones are closed. So what we've seen in this second demo is we've created 4 different project boards, each using one of the different templates that's available to us. I hope you have enjoyed this introduction to GitHub project boards. Please like the video and subscribe to my channel for more DevOps content. Thanks for watching.